Okay, what we now did so far is that we have a trigger that after we update something, after we insert in this table invoice has item, we're going to be updating the quantity in stock just to remove what was sold from the stock. And when we delete is actually when we delete from that invoice has item, after we delete, we just get the old sold and then old quantity sold and then put it back in stock. In the update we said that you need to do both because the item might also change, so you need to get the old item and put it back to it and then put the new item and subtract from the quantity sold. What if the item did not change? If the old and new are the same, it doesn't matter. It will work as well the same way. I'm just going to put the old quantity and then take the new one. So nothing is going to change. It's going to work in both ways. But now my point is, I'd like to improve this a little bit because this is just a completely exact copy from here. That's what I did. Just copied this one and put it here. And the same thing for the delete is exactly the same code here, because that's what happens when we delete. So now I don't want to be doing something like this. I would like to organize this better, to have like some kind of a method or a function and put this code there and then just call that function, that method to do that. And this is the routine. And I'm going to maybe go back here so I can see here. You see, this is the general view that we don't look much at it. We just add tables, everything from the diagram, and then we don't look too much on that on this one over here. But here you can see I have other things that I can do. There's some views. I'm going to be talking about those views later. And then routines. They're called routines or procedures actually. So I'm going to create a new routine which they call procedure and then give it a name. What's the name? Let's say delete, or maybe give it a name that makes sense. Update on delete. It's just okay. So this what's going to happen is that after something, I'm just going to update on delete means I'm going to execute the code that every time I'm having on delete, I'm executing, like this code over here. So okay, go back here and then do something like this. That's what I would like to do. Notice that after I change the name here, it's changed here. And if you try to change it here, it's quite painful. It will not work, and then you can understand why it doesn't work, and it takes some time, but then you change it here, and then everything changes there. Normally. It doesn't seem to be so quick, but I don't care. So you just change from here, and then it's going to be changed there. Now, there's one small problem. The small problem is I don't have old quantity stock, an old item. No, because these are values that are given only to the triggers. The old value is only available to the trigger, not to any function, any time. It's just available a specific period of time, just while the trigger is trying to execute. So once the trigger is executed, this is not available anymore. So if I just do something like this, it's not going to work. Well, let's see it. Sorry? I'm going to deal with that, but just would like to show you once I have this. I need to deal with this later, but just keep it in mind how to deal with them, because I need to come back here, and then instead of just using this code, I can just call this. And I would like to do the same thing here actually with the delete. Instead of just copying and pasting, just call and then put the name. Of course, we would like to do the same thing for the insert, but that's let's take it easy, one step at a time. Now, this is not going to work. Why? Because of that old, and same thing will happen to the new. So now, what I would like to do, I would like to send this old dot quantity sold and old dot id item. I would like to send them as arguments to this new function or procedure, and that's what I need to do. Basically, instead of just using this like the same code, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this value and send it inside so it can be used in here. So now I need to say something. I need to say that, okay, I have some kind of variable. Let's say let's QS for quantity stock, and then sorry, quantity sold, and then ID item, something like that. But it's, well, of course I need to be more specific, because I need to say what's the data type of these things. Actually, this is an int, and this one is another int. But it's not enough. This is much better. So instead of now here, I just need to say, okay, now this is the quantity stock, and this is the ID of the item. These are two values that are coming from outside. I'm just sending them into the procedure so I can work with them and then do something better. But actually, you know what, I don't like this kind of shortcuts or short names, because they're not really meaningful. I'm just going to say quantity sold. I just would like to make sure that it's different from the name, from the column, so you don't think that this is actually coming from that column. It's just a variable that I'm using here. And also here, item sold. So I'm just going to do something like this. Both of them are ints, but it's not enough. For this, I need to tell that I'm going to take this as an input. So I need to use something like this. This is in, because I can also use them as an output. And some of them can be at the same time input and output, but this is another story. I would like now just to talk about the fact that how can I just send some information from outside of this procedure, so I can just use it to run some code here that is executing some updates and that requires some values. So this is a number that comes from here, but when this thing is going to be used, every time I'm going to use it, I need to send it something. That means here I need to do something like this again. Okay, so now if I just would like to keep my data and then make the changes, oh, you know what, I'm just going to do forward engineer and then see this at work and start from scratch. I don't care. Or maybe we can just be adventurous and do also the same thing for the we created one for the update on delete, and I just like to create one for the insert, so we can have everything here. Basically it's going to be the same, so I'm going to add a new one. Let me just make it bigger. So I'm going to say update on insert. You can give it any name you want. The same thing in and then say quantity. I can just do a copy because it might be much easier. Let's just copy everything and then come back here. I'll have some problems here. Okay, now update on insert. And I need to have this, except now exactly I need to have a minus. Now it still shows me this. Now it's okay, updated. So this is update on insert, and I have update on delete. They're all the same, except that I can see there's a minus. I can improve that later, but not a big deal for now. Okay. So what I need to do now, just copy this and put it in the after insert, because now I'm just going to do update on insert. Just make sure that I'm using the same name. Yep. And then it's not old, it's new. The other things are all the same, right? What happened? And just copy this again, and when I go back here, that's much cleaner, right? Now you can see that I'm just calling the method that updates with the old quantity sold, which is going to go into here and execute this with this code, and then this number is going to be added to the quantity sold, and this number is going to be used for the ID of the item. And I'm going to do the same thing here for the update after insert.
What happens if we don't change the name?
If you use two with the same name, which name?
The quantity sold and the ID item.
It doesn't. If you can choose any name as long as it's not the name of a column here of this table, because it's going to be conflicting.
There will be error.
For example, if I put quantity sold, now there's a problem. Which one is which? You see, there's going to be a problem. Which one is the parameter? Which one is the column from the table? So it's not going to be, the confusion is going to be creating a problem. But you can name anything you want. It can be also quantity sold. I just do not want to use this so you don't think that it has to be the same name of a column somewhere in the table. So I'll just put it, this is a variable. You can give it any name. I'm just giving it a meaningful name, and I intentionally made it different from any column on here. So you don't think that it has to be coming from this. That's my point. So now let's just forward engineer, and let's see actually what is going to be. See, now we have a new object. We have these routines. I have 2 of them with the triggers. I click on this so I can just see what is happening. You're going to see this delimiter again. You remember the delimiter? Now what I'm saying is now the delimiter needs to see these things. So this is going to use that as a way to say that the instruction stops whenever there's this symbol, not with a semicolon, so I can be able to use semicolons inside. And here you go. And the same thing with the update on insert, and we have also these triggers. So the triggers now, as you can see, they're going to be just calling the method itself, this procedure. No, it's not called the method. Now let's next, and everything is a success. We can go back here to the connection, and let's just insert some data to see it working, and we're going to do it step by step to make sure that everything is working as expected. And so now what you can do by refreshing, you can see if you have some stored procedures. We have some new stored procedures. We have them here. We have also some see in the tables, you can see that they have like triggers. All these triggers are, can see here. So sometimes if you make some changes, you would like to make sure that they have been, I mean, forward engineered, so you can look at them from here. Now let's just insert one invoice with just one line, which is this one over here. No, I don't need this one. This is the manual one. I just kept it for to know exactly what should happen. So now if I run here, what I'm expecting again, I'm expecting that well, I should run it. Let me run this. So I'm expecting now, after running this line, that the item number 1 is going to be subtracted, the quantity stock of it will be subtracted by 5. So it should be 95 here. But this time it's going to go, when this trigger is going to call this routine or this procedure, this one is going to be executing using the data that is supplied as input from as these arguments. So these arguments are going to be, the first one is the new quantity sold, the second one is the new ID item. Of course, the ordering is important. If you flip them, it's not going to be working, because the first value goes to the first variable, which is this quantity sold. So don't mix up your sorting. It's like any method in Java that you used to use, or any programming language that you've been using. So now let's just run it and see, inshallah, that it's going to be working. So this is before and this is after. So it's still working perfectly. Yes?
Let's say if you insert another time, it will give you an error. How can you fix it?
If it gives me, what do you mean if insert another time this one?
Now run it again.
Yes. So it's going to give me while you're trying to have a duplicate entry.
How can I fix it?
Well, fix, it's all, you have already a value in this that has this ID1. This is your primary key, so it's not going to accept any other value that has the same number, because we said the primary key should not be having duplicated entries. So the option, create a new one. So, and actually this is what I'm going to do later on. You're going to see, for example, I'm going to be, let's say, look, I already have inserted this line. I already have this line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to uncomment a couple of lines, which is the one that is going to insert 1, 2. and let's just keep going with this one. Insert 1 3, but also we would like to, no, we don't want to do any updates, and would like just to do something. Insert another invoice. So this is invoice number 2 with these values, and for this invoice number 2 I'm going to have these 2 products, for example. So I can have many invoices now. Let me just run these, and you're going to see now in invoice as item, I have this invoice number 1 has 3 items, invoice number 2 has 2 items, and that's because I have 2 invoices now to 2 different people, and these are the quantities that are updated accordingly. Well, I'm not following up. We trust, now we've checked that it's working, so it just keeps subtracting every time we delete something. If we want to make sure, let's count. Every time for ID number 1, how many times do you have ID number 1? 5 and 10, that means 15. 100 minus 15, what should we expect to have?
85.
So let's have a look. Do we have 85? We do. So what about screen, for example? Go back here. How many times do you have screen? 2 times. So 20 plus 10, 30. 100 minus 30, 70. So it's working. We can check that. Which one? Oh, the ones that I just uncommented? Okay, these are the ones. Let me just hide these. I inserted these things. We just, which actually basically what they did, no. What they did is, yeah, just to be able to add these 2 lines. But I'm not able to add these 2 lines unless I have invoice ID number 2, because this is a foreign key. So I went back and executed this line that created the foreign key number 2. And this is how it works every time you add different invoices.
The number 1 and 3 is the customer ID.
The number 1 here? No, these are the item, because I'm in invoice has item. The first one is the ID of the invoice, the second one ID of the item. Yes? So we would like to do something even better, because I would like to introduce you to something more, because we can do more with these triggers and procedures. Why? Because I just would like to I would like you to notice that what's the difference between these 2?
Plus.
Just the minus and the plus. Well, that's a very small difference. You just have like 2 different procedures for it. You just have only one that deals with both cases. How can I do that? With an if. Yes. So if, and then I can say whatever I'd like to do. For example, but the if, I need to know what to do. Well, how the if works? Well, there's a lot of different things I'd like to show you here in the on the website. There's a couple of links that I put there, so you can have a look at these procedures. Some of them here, for example, you can just have a look at many of these. Some of these, I don't remember which ones. Well, each one of them has some extra information that you can find. So I just would like to show you some of the ifs, and not here, this one probably. Yeah, probably this one. So you can have some kind of not this one maybe either. No. So this is like a simple one. I think this is the one, the introduction to stored procedure. In this one you can have some couple of let's just do this is some kind of basics. You can drop a procedure like the same way you create a procedure, and then you can do a lot more, but this is like the in and the variables, and you can have the out. You can have some examples there you can use, but we'll talk about some of them. But I just would like to have this flow control structure, for example, the if, case, iterate, some loops, while. So you see, this is an if. You have also some kind of case when this, which is a switch, and you can have also some loops. While this condition do something, and this is the end of the while. So there's a lot of things you can do actually with these procedures, and what I need to use here is some kind of a if. But if comes with something that I need to ask a question about. If something, what I'd like to do, for example, when I'm calling this update, okay, or update, let's say I'm going to rename this to update quantity, or update stock. That will be to make it shorter. So update stock, I need to know, am I going to add or subtract? So what I'm going to do, I'm just adding another, for example, make it an int, just for simplicity. What I'm going to do, if operation, for example, it's 1, I'm going to do this. If it's 2 or something not 1, I'm going to do something else. Then I'm going to update this. Else I'm going to do a plus. So if it's 1, that means it's the insert, but actually it's not really that best way, but anyway, that's and this is how I end if. Now I don't need this anymore. So this is update stock. No, sorry, this is the one that I don't need anymore. So I'm going to delete. So when I need this to be 1, when I'm inserting, I need to subtract the quantity. So when I'm inserting this, operation should become 1. So what I need to do now, come back here. Every time I insert, I say 1. Same thing in update. After I insert, I have 1. But now, of course, the name has changed. It's not update on insert, it's update stock. Because I don't have update on insurance. This is update stock. That's the name that I'm using. So I'm going to update stock here every time. Same thing, update stock, update stock. And when I'm deleting, I should use something else than 1. It can be anything, can be 0, whatever. Just you choose. What do you want to put? 2? Too late. 2 came first. So I'm going to put 2. Okay, so let's execute these and forward engineer and then see it at work again. So next, so now you're going to see I'm going to have only one routine, one procedure, and in that one procedure it's going to be executing everything. And then let's go back here and let's insert the invoices. This is the first invoice. I'm going to insert everything. This is the second one, and whatever. This is the 3 lines. So each one. Now I'm going to run, and you're going to see it's again everything. And let's look at the items. They seem to be the same, so nothing changed. But this time we used some nice stuff, which is something like this. Yes.
Can you have the nested
Of course you can.
the same?
It's the same thing. You can have if, and instead of else you can have another if, and no problems. Yes.
In operation, and this is only for to say the operation can be 1 and 10. Doesn't have to do with things inside it.
Yeah, this is just for me to be able to know which one I'm going to execute. Yeah. I can do even more things anyways, but this you get the point. That I can have some, like, instead of having a lot of different procedures, I can just use them, and as you can see, it's much better to have something neat and clean. So what I'd like you to do now to try this, so I can just move on and show you some more interesting things. Okay.